$2,000 stimulus check in 2022. This video says it all. Let's get right into it. But if you haven't done so yet, or if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video so you can join the fastest growing advocacy group and the #1 fastest growing channel right here on YouTube dedicated to keeping you updated with the stimulus package, stimulus checks, money, benefits, Social Security, SSDI, SSI, VA, RRB, low income, no income, and anything else out there right now with all of these massive changes that continue happening with everything going on. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I truly do appreciate it. My dedication and commitment to you and this community as a whole is to be here for you every single day to keep you updated in any way that I possibly can during this very confusing and difficult time. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Hit that subscribe button right down below the video and let's get into this right now. And by the way, a new list of shout out winners pulled right out of the membership club will be announced later on in this video, so stay tuned to see if you will get a shout out in this video. Alright, so many of us have been wondering, will we be receiving another stimulus check here in 2022? Now, we're still very early into 2022. However, things have been progressing very, very quickly. In fact, yesterday alone, there was over 1 million new COVID cases just right here in the United States. That is massive. In fact, the number came in at 1,042,000 new COVID cases just yesterday. Here's what's interesting about this. Just a couple days ago, I was out and I said, according to doctors and researchers, they're predicting that we'll be seeing 1 million new COVID cases in a matter of about a week to 10 days. It took about 2 days to reach that milestone. So it is progressing incredibly fast here. We've also been wondering, with all of the different business closures, cancellations, restrictions, and all of these other things that continue happening across a handful of states right now, we're starting to wonder, is this going to lead to additional stimulus checks? That's what we've been talking about for a while now, and we continue to see this virus spread right now. We continue to see cancellations of flights in the thousands every single day, which, by the way, another almost 2,000 flights have already been canceled today alone, not to mention the over 10,000 flights over the last 8 or so days. There's a lot of different things going on, business cancellations, business closures, all kinds of different things. Now, you might be wondering, how does any of this relate to a fourth stimulus check here in 2022? That's a good question. It all translates back to economic impact, something we've also been talking about here on the channel for a while now, because we have to relate all of this to how is this going to impact the economy? Because at the end of the day, what does Congress look at? What does the president look at? What does everybody look at in Congress or the governors, everybody like this? They look at the economy, the strength of the economy, how much economic activity is there, how much money is being spent, how much tax revenues are coming in. They look at the whole picture, and they also look at what is employment doing, right? What are jobs doing? Are people being laid off or furloughed? Are businesses closing? Are people, is there jobs being created? What's going on with the jobs information, which, by the way, we're going to get another reading on that on Friday. So we'll have to continue watching that very closely because that's going to give us our latest jobs information. So all of that translates into everything going on right now in determining what is this going to mean going forward as far as economic activity. As far as the doctors and researchers, they're still saying this is going to continue expanding over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we probably won't even peak until about that time. So this is just still the start of it, right? Now again, what does all of this mean going forward? Well, it simply means if this is going to have some kind of economic impact in a negative way, what they need to do is distribute more money, cash to the people that we can go out and spend in stores, businesses, things like that to revitalize the economy and pump up those businesses once again that are actually having negative economic impacts as a result of all this going on right now. So with that being said, in just a minute here, I'm going to bring my wife in, Corey, and she's going to read an article to you that is going to lay it out very, very clearly what all of this means. In fact, pretty much everything that we've been talking about here for the last week or so is all going to be solidified in this short couple-minute article that my wife, Corey, is going to read to you. It's going to make it very clear what all of this means going forward and what it actually means toward a $2,000 stimulus check, possibly a $1,400 stimulus check, any additional stimulus checks coming out in 2022, and even the likelihood of that happening. So It's a very clearly laid out article, and they have a lot of really good information within this, and I think it's going to make it very easy to understand what actually all of this means for us here in 2022 and the actual likelihood of additional stimulus checks. At the rate that things are going right now, it would almost seem inevitable that additional stimulus checks would need to be distributed here in 2022, considering the current landscape, right? Just think about a year ago, in early 2021, when we were looking at that $1,400 check that was to be distributed in middle March to early April. Remember that one? Yeah, all of us remember that one. That was the last check that was distributed almost a year ago now. Well, a lot has changed since then, and things are significantly worse now than they were just a year ago. So, with that being said, I want to bring my wife in, Corey. She's going to read this to you. It's about a 3.5-minute article. I'd advise you, if you have the time, listen to this. It's very clear-cut. They lay it out very clearly, and they let us know what could be the catalyst for additional stimulus checks and some of the likelihoods of this actually happening. So, with that being said, Corey, take it away and read this to you. And by the way, that list of shout-out winners will be revealed here a little bit later in this video, right after she gets done reading that article. So, by the way, make sure to subscribe down below. It's totally free to do so. This is the #1 advocacy channel right here on YouTube, as well as the fastest growing channel right here on YouTube, dedicated to bringing you update on stimulus checks, the stimulus package, and all of those benefits, as well as money and anything else we can get our hands on right now. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe down below, share this video, and go back and check out some of the other 2,000 videos after you get done watching this one. So, Corey, take it away, and I'll catch you again a little bit later in the next video.
Stimulus update. Will Omicron surge bring stimulus check back to the table in 2022? The Omicron variant is fueling a surge in COVID-19 cases. If the economy is forced to shut down to some degree, it could make the case for more stimulus funds. Last year, as Americans across the country geared up to ring in 2021, there was an air of despair that was tough to ignore. The COVID-19 outbreak was in full swing, and with vaccines being mostly unavailable, it was shaping up to be a bleak winter. Unfortunately, we're not exactly starting off 2022 on a much better note from the COVID-19 related standpoint. While vaccines are, thankfully, easy to come by, the highly transmissible Omicron variant is currently wreaking havoc, causing explosions of outbreaks across the country. And while initial reports seem to indicate that Omicron may produce milder symptoms than previous COVID-19 variants, a lot of people are beginning 2022 in quarantine due to exposure to the virus or a confirmed case. Now, the good news is that if the pattern in the U.S. mimics that of South Africa, where Omicron was first flagged as a variant of concern, the current wave of infections could subside by late January. But if it is prolonged, it could be a very tough winter, not just from a health perspective, but from an economic one. Will economic turmoil ensue? As of the end of 2021, the national jobless rate has reached its lowest level since the start of the pandemic, and right now, the U.S. economy generally looks strong. But that could change if the coming weeks in Omicron takes out a large chunk of the U.S. workforce. Furthermore, if the situation doesn't improve, local shutdowns and restrictions may need to be enforced that result in layoffs and income loss, even if only on a temporary basis. And that's a scenario that could trigger a fourth stimulus check. To be clear, President Biden has said that he doesn't intend to implement widespread shutdowns similar to those enforced early on during the pandemic. But if the Omicron variant continues to fuel a surge in COVID-19 cases to the point where healthcare systems become overwhelmed, some degree of government intervention may become necessary. Should Americans hope for a fourth stimulus check? The economy has, at this point, come a long way since the start of the pandemic, when the jobless rate reached a record high. If the COVID-19 situation gets worse and impacts the economy in a negative way, it could make the case to send another stimulus check into Americans' bank accounts. But that's a backward step no one should hope for. If anything, we should hope that the Omicron surge does indeed prove to be relatively mild and short-lived. And we should also hope that businesses aren't forced to shutter temporarily in its wake. Many businesses are still in the process of recovering from 2020. And at this point, we should be rooting for continued economic improvement instead of a setback. It's also worth noting that if too many restrictions are imposed due to the current outbreak, it could result in more supply chain disruptions. And that could, in turn, produce even higher levels of inflation for U.S. consumers to deal with. Right now, many people are struggling to make ends meet due to higher living costs across the board. A fourth stimulus check might help in that regard, but if rampant inflation lingers, it could easily erode that benefit. We'd like to give a shout out to Richard Beechler, Ayana Jarvis, Chris Misses, Jennifer Blackwell, Cheryl Summers, Charles Hare, Walter Goodman, and Michelle Dupree. Thank you guys for being in the fan club. We really appreciate it.